So today we are going to learn about the Chinese civilization. So let us study the Chinese civilization. Discovery and location. The Chinese civilization is one of the earliest civilizations in the world history. According to the archaeologists, in the civilization started flourishing around 2000 BC along the banks of the river Huanghe, also known as the Yellow River. The river is also called the Sorrow of China because it changed its course after the floods causing damage to the crops and settlements in the river valleys. Archaeologists tell us of the flourishing culture in China as early as 4000 BCE, when the people started growing their own food and had settled down in the villages along the Huanghe River. By 2000 BCE, they not only knew the use of wheel, carts, and pottery, but also started harvesting and weaving silk, making clay bricks, and even taking flood control of irrigation measures by building canals. A number of dynasties ruled China. The history of Chinese civilization included different dynasties named after different kings. The division of dynasty: Shai dynasty 2000 BCE to 1600 BCE, Shang dynasty 1600 BCE to 1046 BCE, Zhou dynasty 1046 BCE to 256 BCE, Qin dynasty 221 BCE to 206 BCE, Han dynasty 206 BCE to 220 BCE. Legend that it has China's earliest ruling dynasty, the Hsia or the Shai dynasty, ruled between 1994 BCE and to 1523 BCE. However, there is not much evidence supporting Shai dynasty. Recorded history begins with Shang dynasty, which came to power around 1600 BCE. The Shangs were the first to unite a large area of China under one ruler. During the Shang rule, there was a sharp social distinction between the rich and the poor. The Shangs ruled for almost 2000 years. After the Shangs, the Zhou started their rule in 1046 BCE. The Zhou were great builders. They built roads and canals across the kingdoms for easy travel of the goods and people. Many cities came up during the period. Zhou dynasty was started with walled cities outside whose boundary lived the merchants, craftsmen, and peasants. There was also development of literature and astronomy. This showed that there were times of relative peace and stability among the Chinese. Thus, people could concentrate on this areas instead of on defense and military service. The Zhous managed to stay in power for over 700 years. In 221 BCE, the Qin dynasty gained control of civilized China. The dynasty expanded their territory and created China's first empire. Qin Shi Huang declared himself as the true emperor of China. The Han dynasty began in 206 BCE and lasted 400 years until 220 CE. It was one of the greatest periods in history of China. Main features of the Chinese civilization. There are several distinctive features of the Chinese civilization. Town planning. Urbanization in ancient China started in the Huanghe Valley in later Neolithic age. The designing of the cities was based on a religious and astrological beliefs such as Feng Shui, maintaining harmony, Yingguo system of urban design and management, and Feng Li neighborhood design. During the Zhou dynasty, the Chengzhou city was developed on the basis of holy field symbol. According to the symbol, the square 5 denotes the inner city, having royal palaces and the government building. The inner city also had the audience hall, temples, and market building in a square 1, 3, and 7, and 9 respectively. The roads run parallel from north to south, only to be cut off by roads that ran from east to west. Houses were made up of bamboo, sun-dried bricks, and woods. The homes of rich were designed beautifully, while the homes of poor were simple. The doors of the house was always south-facing. Architecture. Houses in the ancient China was central courtyards and curved roofs built to look like birds' wings. So I was on houses in the ancient China was central courtyard and curved roof built to look like the bird's wing. The Great East example of the grandeur of Chinese architecture is the Great Wall of China. Mongolian invasion from the north were a constant problem in the China. To check this threat, many rulers to check this threat, many rulers built a strong and independent wall along their northern boundaries. Qing Shi Huang, the king of the Qing dynasty, joined all the fragments of wall into one long wall, the Great Wall of China. The wall is about 2400 km long and forms the northern boundary of China. Pagodas are another example of the architectural buildings. They are religion buildings mainly constructed using wood. The main features of the pagodas are the painting and carving in the interiors. Social structure. The social structure of the Chinese civilization was same as the other civilization. The emperor at the top of the social ladder, while the farmers and the slaves were at the bottom. Family life in the ancient China. The social structure of the ancient China civilization was the same as the other civilization. The emperor was at the top of the social ladder, while the farmer and the slaves were at the bottom. Family life. Families in the ancient China were close-knit and respected their ancestors and elders. The family was the most important unit of society. The oldest male was the head of the family. Obedience to the elder, that was most important virtue that the young people were expected to have. Ancestor worship was an important part of the Chinese life along with the worship of the nature of gods of rain, sky and river. Women were expected to be gentle, respectful and obedient to male members of the family and the elders. Occupation. The Chinese were involved in farming, domestication of animal, pottery and sericulture. Agriculture. Agriculture was one of the main occupation of the Chinese people. The fertile soil, adequate water supply from the Huanghe and the irrigation facilities were conducted for the agriculture activities. They developed on rice farming techniques. They also grew barley, wheat, soybean, green onions, ginger, grapes, Chinese cabbage and Japanese plums in the farms. Chinese was the first to cultivate tea and use it for medical purposes. Domestication of animals. Animals such as cattle, sheep, horses and dogs were domesticated by the people. Several wild animals were hunted for meat, skin and horn. Pottery and woodwork. Chinese pottery made using ceramic is famous for its executive forms, shape, finishing and delicate use of color. The great work of the ceramic pottery came from the Han dynasty. The advent of the porcelain and the pottery clay led to the main cups of the jars, saucers and bowl. They were beautiful designs with decoration and color. In addition to pottery, large quantity of wood, especially timber, was found in China. Most of the houses and buildings were made up of wood. The Chinese also used wood to make beautiful wood furniture. Sericulture. Sericulture is the cultivation of silkworm to produce silk. This technique originated in the ancient China. The silkworm were reared on mulberry trees and their cocoons were processed to manufacture silk on the large scale, despite silk being the main item of the export. The technique of spinning silk remained a secret among Chinese till the 5th century CE. Means the Chinese were using machines still from the ancient times. Trade and commerce. The Chinese carried out trade with outer countries. Major trading activities were carried out on the Silk Road or the Silk Route. The Silk Route facilitated the trade of silk with the Roman Empire, Egypt and West Asia. Along with the silk, the Chinese also exported rice, tea, spices and porcelain artifacts and imported horses, gold, silver, glass, steel and wool. Religion and culture. The Chinese believed in the worship of ancestors and elements of the nature. Oracles were used to consult God to make important decisions. The later Zhou period is considered to be the beginning of the classical age in the Chinese philosophy. This was the time when the great philosophers such as Confucius, Mencius and Lao Tzu preached their word. The followers of the Confucius Mencius led to the religion movement of Confucianism. Always read Confucianism. Means Confucianism. The teachers of Lao Tzu and to form the basis of the Taoism and Buddhism came to China across the Silk Road from India. Contribution to the modern world. The Chinese civilization had made substantial contribution to the world in the fields of script literature. Chinese developed this Chinese script using only pictures. They wrote on silk or bamboo ships using fine brush. Today the Chinese script is still followed in China but in a more simplified form. Chinese and science and mathematics. The Chinese invented calendar consisting of 365 days and 12 months. They also correctly calculated eclipse. They also invent abacus, a counting device to learn maths. Also, they invented the magnetic compass, and block painting was also used for the Chinese. And the magnetic compass invention was put as a top secret by the Chinese till the 5th century. Other invention. The Chinese were known for a number of inventions. They made kites to signal for the army among the danger. Means the kites were first invented by the Chinese, and second it was used in Japan, and then it was used in the outer parts of the India. Gunpowder, firecrackers, and were invented to be used in warfare. They made paper from barks of old trees. The Chinese were first to use umbrellas to protect themselves from rain and sun. Means all the inventions since ancient time was started by the Chinese. That made in China symbol was always used by the Chinese. Decline of the Chinese civilization. The Chinese civilization was unlike other civilization, while most contemporary civilization faded away civilization faded away over the years. The Chinese that started in the ancient time continue well into the modernity and under various dynasties. Dynastic rule in China ended in 1911 CE when it became a republic. Means the China always invented the things, and since ancient time all the things used by the Chinese was and always a symbol used by the China that made in China symbol. So this was the chapter of the Chinese civilization, and since ancient time the Chinese were very good in technology. Also the silk have a brilliant story. One time the princess of the Chinese civilization was drinking a tea, and one part of the silkworm cocoon fell into the cup of tea of the princess. So then she wanted to remove it, but the silk was restricted to the cup of the tea. Then she started the sericulturing of the silk, and then started the silk since China. Then the silk will also got a tag that made in China. So this was the chapter of the Chinese civilization. I hope you enjoyed the chapter. The chapter is very good, and you must learn the chapter and study it well. The China is very good in technology since ancient time, and you have to learn all the dynasty who ruled from where to where. Means you have to learn which dynasty ruled from when to how. So I hope that you enjoyed the chapter, and this chapter is very good, and you have to learn all the things which I have taught, which dynasty ruled from which date and to how date. So this was the chapter of the Chinese civilization. I hope you enjoyed it, and please learn all the dates which I have told. So this was all about the Chinese. Now the chapter is over. Very early we will come into the early Vedic period. So please enjoy this chapter and learn well. This was the aftermath of the Chinese. There is also a very good chapter about China. The Chinese Revolution in 1949, which they have a struggle to get freedom from the Britishers. So please learn the chapter well the Chinese civilization and learn all the things which I have taught you. So study well at home and stay safe at home. So I think that your chapter is going to over. Please do all the exercises and learn, because the Johu dynasty, the Shang dynasty, the Tang dynasty, and also the Huang Tenseng name will also come. See, the Huang Tenseng was a monk who taken 1000 book from India and migrated to China of the Tang dynasty. So this was the chapter. So please learn this chapter. Not much hard this chapter is. Learn all the things, and thank you for being this channel to learn in my channel. So thank you and stay safe at home.